Okay.
That said you ended it.
Well, that's because I couldn't get in the room.
Ah,
Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And today, they say third time is the charm. Cool Your Heels with Lillian is our special guest, Lori Barrett, who is a life coach. And she became a life coach because she decided to transform herself from the ugly duckling into the beautiful swan she knew she was. So good afternoon, Lori.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
I am doing just fine. And is it raining out in California? Oh, you're not in California though.
No, I'm in Georgia.
Okay, is it raining in Georgia?
Actually been raining off and on. Like every 10 minutes it decides to rain, and now the sun is out, and it's been doing that all day long.
Yeah, that's what it's doing over here. So it's kind of taking turns here. Laura, please tell the audience, again, should they have forgotten since the last time you were on, what you did before you became a transformer in the terms of life coaching.
Sure. Most of my career was spent in criminal justice, actually. Started off very young, working at 14, and at 16 kind of followed in my mom's footsteps and started becoming a legal secretary, learning that trade, and receptionist while still going to high school. I was in what they called at the time work study. So you did a morning of school and then an afternoon of work, and the work counted as credits. So that's how I began, working for lawyers, then later on working for judges. Then I found myself transitioning into parole and probation and community work service, where I still worked for judges. It was kind of like half of the county and half paid by the state of Maryland, which is where I'm from originally. And from there, I worked there in that trade for years in that career. Always made a good living, always was good at what I did, but knew the whole time that it wasn't exactly what I was supposed to be doing. And I wasn't overly passionate about it. I was passionate about helping people. I've always had that passion. But it put food on the table, and it helped raise my twin girls. And then finally I left there and I transitioned into the school system. And I served in the school system as a family involvement advisor and an educator for a while. And I worked with low income, high risk families. And I was the liaison between the school, the families, and the community stakeholders. I found that very rewarding. And then from there, we moved to Georgia about 10 years ago. And I did some enforcement again. I was a child support enforcement agent. So I was, still serving families, but in a different capacity. And then I left there and knew still that wasn't exactly what I was supposed to be doing. I had the opportunity, I had to quit my job to take my mom in. She's 90 and has Alzheimer's, and so she lives with me. And during this process, just really prayed and thought about things and just really decided that I wanted to explore what I really felt I wanted to do. And here I am, doing what I love.
So when people come to you and say, I want to turn from a caterpillar into a butterfly, what do you tell them?
I tell them, I believe I can help you do that, because that's basically what I did in my own life.
And what are some of the things you tell them that they need to do before they can do this transformation?
Well, you really have to take a hard look at what you want to do. As we discussed before, what really energizes you, what really makes you want to bounce out of bed. And I'm not talking about like being a morning person or not being a morning person. What would you really love to get up and do? What do you think about doing that comes to your mind like right away when you open your eyes? Once you get that head trash, all those negative thoughts that come to all of us out of the way, what do you want to do? And from there, I help you to receive clarity on how to go about doing that. And then from there, how to transition. I love to empower people, then transform, and then we make the connection together and hopefully get you on your way to where you want to go.
And that's a good way of doing it. And folks, another way of doing it is if you'd like to take baby steps, borrow your Raggedy Ann or Andy from your kids and have the doll represent you. And then live through the doll as if play acting to take these small steps in order for you to recognize that you're able to do that. And sometimes that helps you recognize that you're not happy. And you can start working out your feelings through the doll.
That's very true. I love that analogy too, because when I was a little girl, I had a Raggedy Ann. And if you remember, if you lift up her dress, she has a heart drawn on her that I believe says, "Love you, I love you." If I'm remembering right. I assume they still have that.
Yeah,
That was
they
like a
still make
trademark. Yeah. And so if you use the doll, like you were saying, kind of as yourself taking the baby steps, well, what's one of the first things that I talk about in my new book? Self-care and self-love. Because you can't make this transaction or transformation rather from where you are and where you want to be until you work on the things that will get you there. And one of those is examining, are you practicing that self-care, that self-love? And that can be for anybody at any age, but especially for women, because we are so programmed by society to pretty much, we're nurturing. So to nurture other people, to take care of other people, to raise the children, take care of a spouse. And so a lot of times we ourselves forget to love ourselves and we get left behind. And then we look in the mirror one day, as we talked about the other day, looking in the mirror at a complete blank, not realizing, hey, who am I? What do I want to do? What do I want to leave as a mark in the world? And so self-love is a great place to start.
So tell them about your book.
My book just came out about 3 weeks ago. So it's live on Amazon.com, and it's called If Not Now, Then When? And it basically teaches you how to reach for your best life by living your passion and purpose. So many times we go to a job, for an example, that we can't stand because we know we have to put food on the table. Or perhaps you even are passionate about that job, but you have bosses or people around you that don't have the same vision as you. They don't appreciate your ideas, things like that. And so it becomes where even if it is your passion, that's not where you want to be spending your time. There's a negative energy, a negative environment. And so my book shares some of these things and teaches you how to redirect yourself, basically. And some people actually to totally reinvent themselves, which is what I've done.
Sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need to take a good look at yourself and say, I don't like this. I don't like who I am. I don't know where I'm going. And I certainly don't want to pass this along to my son or my daughter.
Exactly. And just to be able to wake up in the morning and feel that joy and that happiness that I'm actually doing something I know that I was born to do. And the way you know that is when you first open your eyes, like we were talking about, what comes on your mind? Or if you're going throughout your day and you see something that you know is your passion, let's just pick something. Let's say it's interior designing. You're at a doctor's office appointment and you pick up a magazine and you start going through it. The magazine you pick is interior design or architectural digest, let's say, because you're drawn to that, because that might be your passion. So what are some of the small steps that you can take after you have that clarity to get you to the other side of this? And that's starting to do your homework. You know, even as a life coach, I didn't just jump into being a life coach. There was homework and research and studying and learning marketing and learning how to write a book and all of these things, how bad do you want it? You know, a lot of people, for example, and I bring this up in the book, I want to bake. I love to bake. I want to be a baker. Well, that's great. And that might be your passion. But make sure that it is your passion, because you're going to be getting up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to go to your brick and mortar to start baking. And you're going to have customers who complain about your pie. Well, that's not like my Auntie Sue's pie. So you have to think about all of these things and really make sure that it is your passion. And then I say, go for it.
Absolutely. And the other thing you need to remember is that when you start your transformation, it's not going to be instant gratification. There are no shortcuts to this journey. This is a journey that will take you the rest of your life, because you'll keep on improving yourselves. The new improved model.
That is a very true statement. And you probably even know that yourself.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, I've been a work in progress for over, let's see, ever since I was 20 years old. So that's about 40 years now. And I'm planning to live until at least 200. So I got another 50, 60 years to go. But there's so much more out there for me to learn. And to be able to learn it, you have to be open. And to be open, you have to give yourself permission to fly. And if you're going to fly, then you're not going to wear lead boots.
True. And guess what? When you go to fly, it's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Just like a bird out of a nest. When the mama kicks the birds out, you're either going to fly or you're going to fall on the ground. Most of the time they fly. But guess what? Even if you did fall on the ground, you just dust yourself off and get up and keep going. You don't let things like that stop you if you really want a change in your life for good. You really want to reach people for good.
There's a movie out there that was made many, many years ago, and it's called The Unsinkable Molly Brown. You really need to see it. This is a lady who comes up from being a coal miner's daughter, and she marries a wealthy guy, and he gives her everything, and yet she still finds it wanting. And it isn't until she set sails on the Titanic to come back home and saves everybody in the lifeboats by motivating them to keep on doing what they need until they're picked up by the rescue boats, that she really feels that she's finally hit her passion in life, and that is to really help people and bring them together under difficult situations. But she's called the Unsinkable Molly Brown, not because she was involved with the Titanic, but the fact that every time she was knocked down, she kept on getting back up. And that's what you have to learn.
You do. And quitting is not in my vocabulary. It never has been. And I've tried to instill that same thing in my children. And I would speak to anyone who's listening that if you take the word try out of your vocabulary and say, I can, and you take the word can't out and I will, and you don't look at quitting as an option, you're going to succeed. And no matter what you set your hand to, you will succeed, because
you will succeed.
Yeah.
And the other thing is don't compare yourself to your friends or your peers or what Celebrity Joe is doing. It's like I told my son a long time ago, just because Joe Blow's parents allow him to come in after curfew doesn't mean I'm his parents and I'm going to allow you to come in after curfew. You're an individual. You want to be treated like an individual. You don't want to be mass produced.
So true. No cookie cutters here. Original authenticity
is what you need to learn how to do. And before you say you can't do it, it's not a question whether you will or you won't. The question is, will you want a better life and lifestyle for yourself? And if the answer is no, please go and jump off the cliff with the rest of the lemmings. There's plenty of room in the ocean to swallow you up.
Yes, that's true. And you know, I came from a rough, I say a rough background in some sense. But you know what? I never blamed my life and my circumstances on that. I use that as a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block. And I talk about some of that in the book as well. You must make, it's quite a common saying now, take your lemons and make lemonade. Do what you can, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because we all need help. We all need some teamwork at times. And, nobody got where they are without somebody helping them. I talk about it in the book some. Even Oprah Winfrey had help. There's coaches who have coaches. Everybody needs a helping hand sometimes. So don't be afraid to ask for help if you get stuck in whatever you're doing. And that's where I can come in to help you with that clarity if you would like. You can reach me at Lori Barrett, lifecoaching@gmail.com. Again, that's Lori, Lori, Barrett, Barrett, lifecoaching@gmail.com, or on my website, which is www.lifestyleswithpurpose.com. And I'd be more than glad to talk to you. The first call, it's a freebie, so please don't feel, oh, I can't call because there's going to be a charge. There's no charge. There's no charge for that.
Unless you call up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, we might have to talk about that. Maybe a penny.
Maybe a penny or two, or a half pence. Now that Lori has already given her information so that you can reach her, and her book title again is
If Not Now, Then When?
Bestseller on Amazon.
Yes, ma'am.
Check it out. And you can hear and see this interview all over again on youtube.com/PWR Network, LLC, PWR Talk Radio, Facebook.com/Lillian Caldwell 35, on Twitter.com/PW Talk Radio _LLC, and at https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. Scroll down, right-hand side menu, Cool Your Heels with Lillian, and voila. And before you go away and stray, Bernard Shaw had this to say in 1921, silence is the most perfect expression of scorn. Thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. And remember, stay healthy. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you. You too.